Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Thursday morning, April the 7th. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and we're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And chat room is open, and I did pop the link into there. I want to finish up looking at the article from Midrashram.com, Midrashram's Institute of Spiritual Studies. And this is an article written by George A. Boyd called When You Grow Up in a Dysfunctional Family. We've been on this for weeks. It's not a whole month, and it's a really good article. I really liked it. It was really well, really quite inclusive as far as difference between what is a healthy family, what is a dysfunctional family, roles that will be possibly played within those dysfunctional families, and boundary issues and all kinds of stuff. So hopefully you're getting something out of this. I know that I am. I'm not a counselor or a therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my own blog talk shows, and I just want to be one more voice, really speaking out against child abuse and, talking about the issues surrounding child abuse and what adult survivors have to go through. And, this show is really my healing journey because I'm looking at all this information, trying to make sense of what happened to me as a child and why I feel the way I do and, what I'm going through right now. So is really basically my healing journey. So I thank everybody for tuning in. But, you have to listen at your own discretion because I'm talking about abuse, and abuse is a sensitive subject. And, lots of people, may find the topics of abuse very uncomfortable. I know for me, I lived my life like this, so I don't mind thinking about it or talking about it because this is what I've been forced to live with as a child and then grow up, with the aftermath of the abuse. But, a lot of people who haven't experienced this type of stuff may find this kind of information kind of, disturbing and may not quite understand it. So you have to listen at your own discretion. And if you're a young person under the age of 18, I just ask that you have someone listen to the show with you and have permission to listen to this show. Have a parent or caregiver or someone who, can help you make the decision whether you should be listening. Because I don't know how young the people are who are listening to my shows, and I'm, the protection of children is just so important that you keep yourself safe when you're online, especially when there's a chat room present. You need to know how to keep yourself safe. And if you're not sure how to do that, just type into your browser internet safety, online safety for children, things like that. And it will bring you to websites that will give you some really good information on how to keep yourself safe online. And the FBI.gov has a great web page devoted to online safety for children and for parents as well. So make sure you do. If you're a young person listening to this, you want to have permission to listen to my show because mainly it's all about stopping child abuse. It's all about child abuse, but there's a lot of adult content on my shows, and I'm talking about a very sensitive subject, and a lot of young children or younger kids might not realize what I'm talking about or even understand it if they haven't heard a whole lot about it. So that's why I say this on every show. So thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate everybody who's tuning into my shows. And good morning, Bill. I've got Bill Murray here with me this morning again. Hello, Bill. And I'm glad to see you and hope everything's well with you. The rest of this article we're just finishing it up, really. We're down towards the end of the page, and this is all about the healing process and setting goals and help for people who may have grown up in a dysfunctional family or an abusive family. It's good information for people like myself as well. And we were talking about yesterday about the whole self-damage stuff, and we were talking about a few of the things that may happen with, as people grow up in these dysfunctional families, that, their rebellion may lead to legal entanglements and problems with the law, and they may be out of touch with their feelings of spirituality and lack of sense of meaning in their lives and stuff. That's what we were talking about yesterday. And this article, again, is from www.midrashram.com, Mudrashram, Midrashram.com, and that's the Midrashram Institute of Spiritual Studies. And we're down towards the bottom, so if you go there, you can scroll right down to the bottom. It is in some, they emerge from their stormy childhood with a damaged self. And the healing process is assisted by an inventory of the damage and then developing a personal treatment plan to address the aspects of the self that can be rehabilitated. In some cases, the damage can no longer be remedied, which means that you will have to grieve for your loss. And in time, come to an inner acceptance and forgive yourself for your mistake. And this, for people who are doing self-help, which is myself, it's still possible to get some help. I think if a person really feels, having experience, having been abused, or having grown up in a dysfunctional family, if a person gets to the point where they cannot cope, and they just, their day-to-day existence is really falling apart, and I've seen this, witnessed this in my own family. I mean, I grew up in this mess, and but as an adult, I was able to hold it together quite well, and just, what most people would think, if people, people that worked with me and people that knew me in the daytime at work, would never have known that I had these issues going on, because I would collapse on my own time. You know what I mean? Like, I would break down on my own time. You know what I mean? And I was very good at, I was high functioning. I've always been high functioning. But there was a period about 4 years ago where I was extremely down, and I really needed, it was either going to be, that I was going to have to go and seek a counselor or a therapist or something. I was seriously to the point where I was just like, how many more years, can I go on like this? This was 4 years ago, and I thought, I didn't want to commit suicide. That's the whole issue. That's what kept me here this whole time, and I didn't want to self-injure, but part of me wanted to show the pain that I was in, and I was, it was a constant battle with myself, and 4 years ago I finally decided to allow myself to do whatever it took to get help. So if self-help wasn't going to work, then I was going to make a commitment that I would go and get professional help. But I made that commitment to myself 4 years ago. So self-help has seemed to work for me, but it might not work for everybody else, And so I think it's important for people just to allow ourselves to get help, no matter what that help is, whether it's group support, because everybody's different, and we all have different, what works for me may not work for somebody else, what works for somebody else may not work for me, and because we're all different, and we all need different things, and there's no shame in that. It's just a matter of making sure that we do as much as we possibly can to help ourselves, right? I mean, I think we can't really, I was expecting somebody else to be able to take away all this pain, and, I was thinking someday somebody will come into my life who will be able to take away this pain, and that was just something that was in my head, I guess, from a child, being a child growing up in that mess, and thinking someday somebody would get me out of that mess, right? And then as an adult, thinking the same type of things, that somebody would be able to take away the pain that was going on inside my heart and to, help me to heal, right? But actually, I never really thought it was going to have to be me, right? I just didn't think that, And that's 4 years ago. I realized it was going to have to be me. I was like, wow, I'm like the only person who can do this for myself. I have to do this. And I realized I had a lot of work in front of me, and I'm glad I made that decision, right? But sometimes we do need help, right? So if you find that you just can't, you're not functioning, and you just can't deal with the day-to-day, getting up, getting whatever it is you do for your daily routine, getting dressed, going to work, whatever it is, just suffering along and not able to even do the basic things like take care of ourselves, eating properly, right? Getting dressed, just these little things that most people can do throughout their daily lives. If they're not suffering from depression or not suffering from a life of serious past abuse issues, we do need to get help. That's all there is to it. I watched my parents totally destroy their lives and their children's lives because they would not get any help. And then my siblings, because there was no help, my siblings did the same thing. And, two of them ended up killing themselves. Basically, one committed suicide, the other one died of a drug overdose at a shelter up here in Calgary. And, they had people reaching out to them to help them throughout their adult lives. And they were so used to not getting any help, they couldn't accept the help. Like people were trying to help them, and it's just unfortunate that they would not accept the help. And that's too bad, and it just stems from growing up in this home where there was no help for so many years, and it just went on and on and on. It was just our life, this dysfunctional, abusive hellhole of a family, was our life. It's just what we did, It's who we were. And quite unfortunately, it really destroyed my brother's lives. And my sisters, they struggled along, and one of them died of cancer quite a few years ago. And then one of my other sisters is still living, but, she's very, very much in denial and codependent and everything else. And, it has had a real harsh, destructive toll on our lives. But we can, I believe, if we search it out and we really seek help, that we can get through this stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing these shows. And so the next part of this article really talks about that. It's, the healing process. The healing process is assisted by an inventory of the damage and then developing a personal treatment plan to address the aspects of the self that can be rehabilitated. And so, that's why he says, George A. Boyd says, in some cases, the damage can no longer be remedied, which means that you will have to grieve for your loss and in time come to an inner acceptance and forgive yourself for your mistake or even forgive others. For some people say, I'll never be able to forgive so-and-so for doing this to me, whoever it was that really hurt them. Whether it was their abuser or somebody who's, completely messed up in someone's life. And people have asked me if I've forgiven my parents, and I actually did on purpose. I literally said yes. Not actually. Well, to my dad, I actually did tell my dad that because he's living. But my mother, she passed away about 16 years ago, and we never ever really did ever reconcile. And that's kind of sad, but that's the way it goes. It's. I had to reconcile, in my own mind that I do forgive my parents. Part of me wants to not forgive them. So I have a bit of a fight going on within myself. It's an inner fight, something I'm working through, you know what I mean? I want to, part of me says, yes, I forgive them. I do forgive them. Okay, they screwed up. I still forgive them. And then the other part of me says, absolutely not. We do not forgive them. They hurt me and they hurt my family. And, so I'm sort of in a situation where I'm sort of mixed feelings on that. I think it takes time, I hope to one day be able to walk free of that. Because by not forgiving, what it does is it keeps me still in a state of a little bit of anger. I don't have as much rage as I used to have, that's for sure. But I still have, this condemnation. It's like I'm holding this against you. I think that's really sad, and I hope that I can get over that and eventually, in time, learn to, I don't want to ever learn to say that what they did was, acceptable. See, I cannot accept what they did. I can't accept what my parents did to us as being okay, right? In my mind, that means that I'm saying abuse is okay and that what they did to me was okay, what my sibling did to me was okay. I will never be able to acknowledge that because I stand up and fight against abuse. I think abuse is completely unacceptable. It's wrong. It's wrong in every way. So how can I then say it's okay what my parents did to me? It's not okay what my parents did to me, and it never will be. But I'm going to have to kind of eventually learn to come to some peace, some sort of terms with it, if I'm going to, really feel free from, free of all this. And I don't know at what point I'll cross that line, and I don't know, where that place even is. People say, well, it's in forgiveness. But see, I don't think so, because I've forgiven my parents, really, and I don't think that's it. I'm not sure what that place is, and I hope to eventually find it. I really do. But for now, I'm still, of a mind that what they did was completely, absolutely unacceptable. And what abuse is unacceptable to me. I just can't, I don't agree with it. I think it's incredibly wrong. And there's people in my family, in order to survive, one of my siblings, who actually, the one that I said is kind of in denial, my sister, who I don't even talk to her anymore because she thinks it's okay what my parents did to us. We'd have conversations, and I'd be like, it was not okay for Mom to bash my head in with a rolling pin and beat me senseless. It was just not okay, right? It was not okay for her to call me those names and to throw things at me and to hurt me and to throw me out of the house and to not care about my well-being, and it was wrong of her. And my sister will not agree with that. She just thinks it was okay. But see, it's because my sister was not abused like that. I mean, my sister was slapped around a little bit. My sister, she was mistreated as well, but not in the same viciousness. Not the same violence involved, and not the same hatred. Like, I never heard my mom tell my sister that she hated her, never. But my mom would tell me she hated me on a regular basis. And so, that my sister can't really compare herself to me, but she tries. Right? She tries, but she witnessed the abuse, but did nothing to try to stop it. You know what I mean? Like, she was in the room while I was being beaten and tortured, really, and absolutely sat there with a blank face and just went into her own little world because of the violence and the abuse, and just didn't do anything to help me. And so now she wants to think that she's on the same level as me, and she's not, because I don't. My mother did not treat her like that. So, it's extremely hard when people want to minimize abuse and want to make it seem like, oh, it was no big deal, or it didn't really, how could that really matter? How could that be important in your adult life, and what does it really matter? And for me, part of my inner child is still saying, hello, I'm still here, and I was wounded, and I'm incredibly damaged. My adult self says, hey, I can hold jobs down, I can do this, I have friends, I'm doing great, I don't use drugs, I'm doing wonderful. My inner child is saying, look at me. I am battered and bruised, and I'm unloved, I'm unwanted, I'm a rape child, I need help. And so I can't deny my inner self, you know what I mean? Like, I cannot deny what is going on inside of me, whereas my sister is in a state of denial. And so, lots of people do that. It might be a form of protection. It's some sort of self-protection to say, well, it wasn't that bad, because as long as I believe it wasn't that bad, then it wasn't that bad. But if we do that, I don't see how we can ever heal, because we do have to be honest with ourselves, and we do have to be honest about what happened. And so, there's no sense in denying what truth is. And truth is truth. And, if that's, for me to deny what happened to me as a child would be to deny my inner child restitution, justice, even though my inner child will only see the justice that I can get for her, which is, learning to nurture myself and love myself and care for her, you know what I mean, and learning to get a hold of my inner self and allow myself to heal. And so it's very, very important that, we do find whatever it takes, that will work for us in our own lives, in our own situations, and get some help, There's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out and getting some help. It's really so important. I mean, I've had talked to so many people because of what I've been doing on my healing journey here over the last 4 years, that I've had the opportunity to talk to quite a few counselors and therapists, even though I'm not going to one and don't see one. I've had the opportunity to speak to quite a few, and they've all said some very nice things to me that really did change my mind on the whole idea that, I could trust, the system, that there are good counselors and therapists out there. And I think people, I've run into people who've said, that they weren't getting along with their counselor and therapist, and they really wanted to, find another one. And there's a whole, books out there about that, that if your counselor or therapist that you have is not working for you, find another one who is, because they specialize. Many of them will specialize in a certain area, and they may not have the ability to help a person in a certain area, because it's just not their specialty. It's not what they know. It's not what they can understand or even help somebody with. So it is important to reach out and get some help and keep looking. Never ever give up for that. Never give up on that. That's what I say. But this next step here would be for people who are kind of wanting to do some self-help. And so he says the next steps are reflecting on each important aspect of your life, setting realistic goals, then determining a way to reach these goals. By writing down these goals, you will be on your way to dealing with a painful past and creating a brighter present and future for yourself. And so this is just, stuff that we can do and, to help ourselves if we're doing some self-help, right, which not everybody can do. So that's why I want to make that, really tell people. I know myself, I allowed myself to, 4 years ago, I said, if I can't do this myself, then I will get some professional help, because I don't want to end up like my brothers, suicide and just giving up, you know what I mean? And I watched my parents do that, right? And my parents were both suicidal, even though they did not commit suicide. They were both suicidal. They were always talking about killing themselves. My dad used to run down the freeway at night trying to kill himself in the middle of the night. My brothers would have to go and get him and bring him home. And he was always talking about suicide or killing his family. And my mom was suicidal as well, but she was manic depressive. And so she would, at the end of the night, be sitting around, I'll just kill myself, and if she was mad, then she would say, well, I'll just kill you, because she really wanted to kill me. And, or I'll kill everyone. My parents were very much into talking about murder and suicide. And my siblings, it's not a surprise to me that two of my siblings basically killed themselves. One one was a real suicide, and the other one was a slow death, drug use. And I mean, he knew what he was going to. He knew he was going to kill himself eventually. He knew that he would, because he was overdosing on a regular basis and losing more brain cells by the year. And so, I mean, it was only so long that he could hold out doing that. So, at the age of 37, he finally died in a shelter up here in Calgary by himself. Absolutely horrific. And you know, one of my other siblings, one of my sisters who passed away from cancer, actually would leave for like 3 or 4 days with a gun, and we'd be concerned that, you know, whether she was going to kill herself or not, because she always had a gun. And it was, suicide is just an issue in my family. And, you know, the remaining people in the family, we all years ago said that we wouldn't commit suicide, that we were not going to kill ourselves. We made that commitment. But see, back in the back of my mind, it was still an option. And so I 4 years ago, when I was sitting on the couch and I finally began my healing journey, I said, I will never, ever, ever consider that an option again. No, because I'm going to stick around, and I'm going to not allow my past to destroy me. And I'm not going to let my parents win this fight, and that was the big issue, you know. I realized that if I did self-injure, self-sabotage my life or commit suicide, all I was doing was allowing my parents to win this fight. And I thought, no way. Oh, no way. They do not win. I win, because I'm going to come out of this whole and healthy and healed, and I'm going to have a good life, and then I'm going to be able to say, you could not destroy me, because that's exactly what they tried to do. And that's why it's really sad that my two siblings didn't get that satisfaction, and that's why that's what prompted me to actually go public with my story, was because of my two brothers, you know, that died, and one suicide because of the abuse. And I wanted people to know what happened to them, because a lot of people, you know, who knew our family just thought they were losers. They were like, oh, they were just losers. They were drug users. And people would lump me in there too, because I was a quote unquote loser, drug user, right? And I wanted people to know the truth. I was like, no, you know, everybody should know what happens to people who are abused and why they do make some of the decisions that they do make. And it's absolutely horrific, you know, that my parents could come out of it looking pretty squeaky clean, even though they were arrested and charged with child abuse charges when we were young. And they came out looking pretty squeaky clean, and they had a lot of support and a lot of friends, and who thought that the children were just these evil buggers who were just troublemakers, and that the parents were just so perfect, even though they knew the abuse was going on and witnessed it. See, my parents were very manipulative, and they could make people believe whatever they wanted to. And that's why I thought, you know, I'm so tired of people running down my brothers and, you know, even myself, you know, the people that knew the family. And I thought, I'm going public with the story, and I don't care, you know, if the remaining family members of mine actually, you know, approve or appreciate it or not, because they're not in my life anyway. So it doesn't matter to me, you know what I mean? It's so sad to see what people, you know, will do to other people, and especially children, and then the rest of the world's looking by saying, well, what's the matter with them? You know, I mean, as a person who suffered in this, I mean, I know what people have gone through, and at least I can sort of relate, because I've been there. You know, it's absolutely horrific. So that's what I said, no more. I will come out of this the winner, and it's really a slap in the face to my parents, because they could not kill me. You know, in the long run, they couldn't kill me, and they could not destroy my life, because I will not allow it as an adult. This past abuse and this past degradation of my whole entire being, I will not be destroyed by them. And so it's a really good feeling to be on this side of it. But I know 4 years ago I was on the other side of it, and very much a victim and very much down, you know. And so I know what it's like to be there. That's why I just want to be, a voice of encouragement to tell people whatever it is you need to do, you make sure that you do it. You know, you get help no matter what way it is. I don't care, you know, group support, online group support, remain anonymous, whatever you have to do. Reach out to a close friend if you know they're trustworthy and they've proven themselves trustworthy. Call a crisis line. Those people, that's very much anonymous, and you can get some help, hopefully. At least have somebody to talk to. They may not be able to completely help your situation, but it's good to have somebody to talk to. You know, a lot of times people just are not around. And so, you know, people need somebody to talk to. Make sure that you do stick around and do not allow, you know, yourself to be destroyed by this. This is what bothers me about my brother killing himself. It's like, you know, people say, oh, he was just a cocaine addict. That's why he killed himself. He was just a loser drug addict, you know, and I'm sitting there going, man, you have no idea what he was put through as a child. You know, I do, because I was there and I witnessed it. And I used to speak up for him, and I was only like 4 or 5 years old, and I'd be like, my dad would be beating the shit out of him, and I'd be like, you leave my brother alone, and of course I'd be beaten up too for saying it. But the thing is I watched my brother be destroyed as a teenager. He was a teenager, he was a young teen, he had been beaten his whole life. My dad had been picking on him his whole life out of all the 4 brothers, and the 4 brothers we trying to stick up for him, of course, they'd be beaten up. It was absolutely ridiculous and sick and twisted. And I tell you, to see him kill himself like that, of course I didn't see it, but just to know, that he took his life. And there was no help for him because he had friends and he had people that tried to help him out. And that what my parents did to him took his life. You know what I mean? People say, no, it was his choice to take his life. It's like, no, because if you grew up like that, I'm telling you, they took his life years and years later, and that's basically what was going to happen to me 4 years ago. Is this what my parents, the evil, twisted, degradation of our souls and our spirits and our minds and our bodies was going to eventually take my life too, unless I actually put my foot down and said, no, I'm not going to allow that to happen. So, whatever you can do, you make sure that you do it. You stick around and you get some help. You know what I mean? Because we certainly did not deserve that. And no child ever deserves to suffer and live in pain like that. And no child should ever be treated like that. Ever. And so many of us have been. That's the issue. And that's why it's so important to not allow yourself to be destroyed by something that was not your fault and we had absolutely no control over as a child, right? Make sure you do get some help. It's just so important. So George A. Boyd says here, by writing down these goals, we'll be on our way to dealing with a painful past and creating a brighter future for ourselves. First inventory the following aspects of your life. So he says, we're supposed to write this stuff down, get a sheet of paper and ask ourselves, or even just ask ourselves, where am I now in each of these areas? My physical health and appearance, my home and environment, my home and living environment, my emotional life, my relationships, my recovery from addiction and dysfunctional patterns, my mental life and education, my career and work life, my finances, my involvement in the community, my hobbies, interests in other cultures, my desires to travel, my ethics and principles I live by, my spiritual life, right? And so we're supposed to write as fully on each subject as possible. So this is be honest. You may also wish to elicit feedback from supportive friends or coworkers who aren't too timid to level with you about how you're doing in your career or in your relationships, and in case you may be laboring under any delusions that you're doing fine when you really aren't. So I really like what he says there, because sometimes we like to say, I'm fine. It's kind of like when you're being beaten and tortured as a child, and after the aftermath of the beating, you're thinking to yourself, no, I'm good. I can do this, right? As you're cleaning yourself up. This is absolutely ridiculous. You just learn to just get up and roll with the punches and get back up. And people say that that's a real positive trait, but you know what? It makes me angry. Because it's the same kind of saying that people say, like, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I hate that saying. My mother used to tell me that, and that's because she used to try to kill me. Bash my head in with a rolling pin, crack my head open. My mother used to, right, and she spilled my blood on a number of occasions, and I had to clean this blood up. My own blood, my God. And she didn't care. It didn't matter to her. I don't know, she knew she had seriously injured me, and she would say, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so I hate that, and I absolutely do not agree with people saying, well, it's good for us. No, it's not. It's absolutely destructive. And, that's why when we go around as adult survivors saying, oh, I'm fine, I'm just fine, even though at night we're breaking down, unable to function, crying and laying around watching TV, just wondering why life is passing us by. That's just living in this delusional state of, oh no, everything's fine when it's not. You know what I mean? So make sure that you do get some help, and don't allow yourself to trick yourself into thinking that everything is okay. Because that's what I've done all my life, right? But that was just to survive, right? But now I want to do a whole lot more than survive, and I want to thrive. And I really think that that's so important for people to get some help. So make sure that you do reach out and you get some help, whatever it is, group support, like I said, or probably crisis line. Make sure you do something, to be well, right? We certainly deserve that, Thanks, everybody, for being here. tuning in. And Bill Murray, thanks so much for being here. I know I'm going to try to to catch your show. I'm not sure if I'll be able to tonight, but Bill Murray has a great show here, Scan, and that's Stop Child Abuse Now. That's blogtalkradio.com/Bill, BILL -Murray, MURRAY, and that's a show geared for survivors, and as well as bringing out the issues surrounding child abuse and child abuse prevention. It's really an awesome show. With he has guests and the co-hosts, Jessica, and it's just a great show. And I just found it, and somebody actually told me to go there and check it out. I'm so glad they did, because I didn't realize the show was there. So, please be sure and stop in and see Bill Murray's show, because you will get a lot of good information from that show. And also, Bill Murray is the founder of the NAASCA, the National Association for Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. So that's www.naasca.org, National Association for Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. That's a website that you can get lots and lots of good information about, adult survivors. Can find great resources there. So be sure and check it out, right? Have a great day, everybody. Make sure you stick around. You stick it out. We certainly didn't deserve this. And I'm telling you, we deserve to have a good life. And but we won't get it if we don't stick around and we don't try. So that's why my big message is never, ever give up. Never, ever give up. Just keep going. Look for those better days, right? That's what I do. I have bad days, too. I think everybody does. You don't even have to have been abused to have a bad day. I know people have bad days. That's all there is to it. This is part of life. But we don't have to let those bad days drag us down to the bottom again. We can look for a better day and realize that there are going to be bad days. There are going to be hard times. But we can do this. We can learn to cope, and we can learn that it's not the be-all, end-all, that there be another day. And as long as we're willing to walk it out, that we can look for those better days. And I tell you, there's so many more better days now for me than there were 4 years ago, and that's just because I look for them. And it's just very important to keep that in the back of your mind and never give up, right? Take good care of yourselves, everybody. I'll be back on tonight, Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, and then tomorrow morning we'll take a look at the rest of this article here from George A. Boyd, Madrashram Institute of Spiritual Studies. Have a great day, everybody. Take good care, okay? Bye-bye.